time to dig it, baby. Tell them just to leave them all behind. I've got girls, they've got choked up, screaming when they die. They got fucked up, chewed up, thrown up, and in the dirt they lie.
And how are things in California and LA and wherever you...
Everything's good, you know. I've been staying busy myself. I know that we have really high COVID cases right now, but I can't say it's affected me personally, but I've been staying home quite a bit, especially during this last round of stay at home sort of, you know, it hasn't been like as strict as it was the first time around, but I don't really have anything there's nothing open, you know, so I can't go to the fucking bar or anything. So I'm in fact, I'd say at this point, after 9 or 10 months of this, I'm fighting to find a reason to stay up past midnight, which is very unlike me.
Same here, actually. Although we are kind of open for business in New Zealand, but
yeah, but you guys have had you handled it properly, yeah?
Yes, but it's holiday season here, and everything comes to a screeching halt in New Zealand after Christmas and New Year's, and doesn't start up again until February, which, as an expat American, I find completely bizarre.
Yeah. It's like trying to get lunch in Spain or something. They're like, we close from 2 till
exactly
8. You're like, oh, forget it.
But one thing I did find, believe it or not, is a copy of the vinyl copy of the record.
Nice.
Yep. So congratulations to your record label for getting it out here to us. It's right down the street at Southbound Records, which is where I do my shopping mostly. So
we have pretty good Australian and New Zealand distribution now, I think. So.
Yep, I would say so, because a lot of the stuff isn't getting through because of everything. So. Congratulations on that. And
I think what happens is we're fabricating everything in the Czech Republic. So somehow getting it from the Czech Republic to you rather than from the United States to you seems to be
that's the secret.
Less formidable. Yeah.
Great. That's good to know. So of course we need to talk about the record. And so I find it interesting because most people, once they've made a record, like you guys had album out a couple months ago, and the last thing they want to do is have anything to do with it, even listen to it again, because it's been in their heads for, months beforehand. But you seem to want to dive right back in and redo it, which is what you've done with Panther Rotate. So what is it about your method of working that makes you want to do that?
Well, technically, I hate to ruin the mythos, but I actually did it while I was mixing the Protean Threat record. So
right.
Yeah, every day we would go in and mix one song off tape to Pro Tools and then tear it apart. And after we would mix the Protean Threat version, the straight version of the song, and then we would go have dinner and come back. And that's when we would start having a drink or smoking some weed and hanging out and relaxingly work until like 1 a.m. on a remix. And it was actually a really good system. It was really fun.
So when you were creating these tracks originally, did you have that process in mind? Were you planning on making kind of 2 versions of everything?
I was thinking about a remix record, but I didn't think I was going to be doing it. In fact, sometimes when we mix, I won't be a part of it until the final results, and then I start doing the fine tweaking. Like my 2 engineers, Enrique and Eric Bauer, do a lot of the primary mixing without me because it's just too many cooks in the kitchen, and they're very good at getting good drum sounds, shit like that. So I thought I would be working on a Damaged Bug record, and I actually brought the reels down there to work on that on the sidelines because I'm always working. And the tape machine that I brought with me was broken, it turns out. So I just ended up shifting gears, and we just started doing the remixes ourselves.
Right. And so did you have an idea that you had to relate to the rest of the folks about what you wanted to achieve with these remixes, or did you just kind of wing it?
No, we just basically, the way it worked was, when we finished the mix for Protean Threat, Enrique would literally, since we're using vintage gear that doesn't have automation, he would take photos with his phone of the board of the mixes. Right. And it's a huge board. So we'd have to take like 6 photos and then piecemeal them together on the computer. And then I would go in and I'd be like, okay, let's get a synthesizer set up so I can run the drums through that. And we just sort of wing it, and then the next morning he would go in before me and set all the mixes back. So it was more toilsome for him than it was for me. For me, I was just getting high and being like, that sounds good, and slowing things down. Enrique in particular is a master editor. So when it came time to do loops or to pitch shift stuff or slow things down, he's really good at making that happen in a timely fashion.
Very cool. Now, I know that the album begins with a track called Scramble Experiment, which actually you've had a video made for the track. And I think it's the only one that I could find on the album that has a video specifically for it. So maybe you can tell me a little bit about that and the guy who put it together for you.
It was a person named Danny, and I believe they were in Turkey, right? Turkey or Hungary? God, I should be able to remember this off the top of my head. But they had sent over a pile of animations and different. Basically, we meet a lot of people online that will send stuff directly to the website and be like, "Hey, I'm an animator," and people know that I'm into animation, so we get a lot of animators hitting me up. And every now and then, somebody will sort of stand out or do something cool. So I wrote Danny back, and I was like, "This is great. I like this aspect of your animation," and we just ran with it from there. And then because the tracks are kind of long, animation is so time consuming and cumbersome that we decided, I think, or to the best of my ability to try and make things a little easier, decided to go with live action background, so photo stills, so that you weren't animating and or video of a background, and then they were just animating over that, and it just kind of came together really nicely. Danny worked really fast, I gotta say. It was really cool.
And how much input did you have in the process?
Virtually none. I mean, I just floated the original idea of they had done some work on a subway design sort of stuff, and I was like, I like the underground stuff, sort of like that vibe of you can't tell if it's day or night, and it's sort of self-contained, and that led to more photographs coming my way, and I was like, all these underground photos are great. So
very cool. Now, I watched an interview with you online where you were talking about how you had grown up and like your parents seems like very hip music taste themselves. Like they owned a copy of.
They had terrible taste as
replica.
Well,
I mean, for me, I think I'm a bit older than you are, and the idea of my parents owning anything at all remotely hip is totally unfathomable.
It was their record collection was a surprise to me because I went through it, and there's a lot of shit in there that I really don't like as well. Though I mean, I'd say the girth of it was mostly stuff that I couldn't dig on, but it buried in there. I think the reality of it was they were just hippies and kind of stoners, and some of that was bound to get through the cracks. Like if you were, living that sort of more free life back in the day, you were bound to accidentally fall ass backwards into liking something hip. So there were some things. There were some Zappa records, and there was a Beefheart record in there. There was Hendrix. I still have the original copy of Electric Ladyland. That was my mom's. That is completely beat to shit.
Right.
And
looks
like they dragged it behind a car.
They probably just played it a lot. But was it because part of the whole rock and roll ethos is rebellion? So did you find it difficult to rebel against that, or did you want to?
No, me and my parents, they were always pretty supportive of me doing art. Like they got me, one of my uncles was an art teacher, so they got me painting classes when I was really young. It was like me and a bunch of like old ladies, and I was painting like stuff from Dungeons and Dragons, and they were like, good job, but I mean, just early on, they saw that that's what I wanted to do. So they were, and we had some people in the family, like I said, my uncle taught art classes. So I had like access to stuff like that. And they never, I guess I don't want to say they didn't have high expectations of me, but they never ever tried to force anything down my throat. When I told them I didn't want to go to college, I think they were a little disappointed because nobody in my family had really gone to college at that point.
Right.
And I was like, well, I'm not going to be the fucking first one. I'm done with school. I don't want to do this anymore.
Right.
So I wanted to go to RISD, which is the Rhode Island School of Design, but it was extraordinarily expensive and my family couldn't afford it. And I was frankly just too lazy to work on getting scholarships.
Right.
And then I started learning how to do all the stuff I wanted to do through people I knew that went to the school. So there were like screen printers and musicians that I knew peripherally by being a townie in such a small town with these students. And I just sort of picked up on stuff from them for free.
Right. And now, of course, everybody learns everything online off of YouTube clips.
Yeah, I literally roofed a building not too long ago up using YouTube tutorials. I gotta say, it's a fantastic. I'm learning how to animate right now
Right.
because of YouTube tutorials. So it's one of the less dark aspects of the internet that you can actually learn something.
Yeah,
you know?
I agree. I mean, it's as dark or as useful as you want to make it, I think. And
It's hard to get bullied in a tutorial comment section.
Yeah. Now the second track on the album is "Don't Blow Your Experiment," which is a kind of a takeoff of an old track that the early pre-Alice Cooper band, the Spiders. And I'm wondering, were you a fan of that stuff? And yeah.
I adore Alice Cooper. I when I was a kid, I was lucky. There was I was a little skater kid, and there was a cassette tape shop. This is like even pre-CD, but mostly cassettes. It's just like a little punk place in a strip mall near my parents' house, and we would go there and hang out. And the people that ran it were a little bit older and cool, and they turned me on. I mean, I had some older friends that turned me on to really good shit too, but this place in particular turned me on to a lot of punk. So it was like Misfits, Black Flag, The Cramps. And then randomly they had a bootleg section. So I would go in there to buy a lot of metal bootlegs. There was like Celtic Frost and Voivod cassette tapes of terrible audience recordings. But amongst those tapes was, and it was the first Alice Cooper thing I ever bought, just dumb luck, was a bootleg that's pretty famous. You can still find it on vinyl even, called The Freakout Show. And it's the live show from some Canadian festival they played. The opening song on both sides is actually the Hawks, a different band, but it's listed as Alice Cooper on it because they were using tapes that had somebody else's single at the beginning of each reel, and then when it got mastered they just left those fucking songs in there. So there's two songs on there that actually aren't Alice Cooper, but everything else on there is this live show that has, you know, Nobody Likes Me, I've Written Home to Mother, Don't Blow Your Mind, all these really excellent heavy duty psych, like even pre Zappa getting involved with them really hit before they found themselves, you know. That shit's killer, really outrageous.
I have to look for that now.
it's called the record's called Freakout Show. There's a few versions of it, all the same though, and you'll notice the first two songs on each side are these awesome songs by some other band.
Because like Killer is like one of my favorite albums. It's amazing. So
oh yeah, dude, Alice Cooper, even up through the 80s, I still kind of like him. Like I'll watch I just watched the super duper Alice Cooper documentary like a week ago, and I'd never seen it. Very highly recommended.
Well, he played up here. He played up here in Auckland, believe it or not, opening for
Motley Crue.
He opened for Motley Crue. Just blew them away. They were awful.
I feel like back in the day, it would be still worth it to see Motley Crue just because they were such pigs.
Nope.
You seem like an opinionated man. I can respect that. But yeah, Alice Cooper, for me, far exceeds Motley Crue for sure.
Yeah. So, and the other thing I noticed, you're very much into the kind of craft work can kind of thing in what you do. I found my vinyl of that just thinking about it. Yeah. So where did you get that from? How did you get exposed to that?
That was another older person I knew when I was a kid, my friend Robbie, who was actually a camp counselor of mine when I was very young, and we sort of remained friends. And when I was a teenager, I did my first drugs at his house. I know it sounds very shady now, but it was all very platonic and on the up and up.
Yeah, good on you.
Me and him still talk like once a week, actually.
Great.
And one time he actually wasn't on acid. He was usually sober, and it's like his house was kind of like a safe place for us to experiment with stuff. And I remember the first time I took acid, maybe the first or second time, he put on a Monster Movie, and it just floored me. I'd never heard anything. And to this day, I could still listen to that record, even though I've heard it a million times, and still think that there's nothing quite that sounds like that, you know. And that, I made him play You Do Right like 3 times in a row until he finally was like, all right, why don't you go smoke a cigarette? He's like, that's enough. But that record really took me to a heavy duty place, you know. And Malcolm Mooney is one of my heroes. He's still playing. He's still fucking great. I saw him play like maybe 5 years ago. He's fantastic.
Right.
But and of course I love Damo Suzuki too. But Malcolm Mooney was my initial love in that band. Like those early records that really like sort of heavily repetitive and primitive. So I got really lucky that I just stumbled into that band because a friend of mine was like, "Oh, you might like this," and I was like, "Holy shit!" So that changed my life that day. on a lot of
Right.
points, for sure. Yeah.
It's amazing what going off to camp can do for you. That's how I discovered Black Sabbath when I was a teenager.
Yeah, there you fucking go. I mean, a lot of people get laid at camp for the first time. That's, to me, he was my he was like a lifeguard, and I was just swimming all day because I didn't want to do any. They were like arts and crafts or archery or horses. There was horses, and I was like, I don't want to. Every time I remember getting on a horse and distinctly seeing the horse look back at me, being like, "What the fuck are you doing?" And I was like, "Yeah, I don't want to be on you either." So I just, I just stayed in the pool for a whole summer, and he was just a buddy.
Right. So, you seem like the kind of guy always is wanting to do stuff. In fact, you mentioned that I think earlier. You're always busy. Has it been tough for you to keep busy with the environment? The whole COVID thing going on around you.
It's just different. I mean, I'm getting used to it now, which is the freaky part. I'm not bothered by it so much anymore, which is not good. Like I said, I'm having a hard time finding reasons to stay up late, and I love staying up late.
Yep.
So like my girlfriend works at JPL, and she has to wake up pretty early sometimes, and I'm finding myself slipping into her schedule of a 9 to 5, which I don't fucking have. So that's absurd. But I mean, my dad once said something to me that stuck with me, and which was one of the only, this doesn't sound good, but it's one of the only things he ever said to me that was actually awesome, where he was like, if you're bored, that's your fault.
Right.
He's like the world, there's so many, and like we're, he knew, he's like, you have everything at your fingertips. You're a privileged kid. Like you can go for a swim, you can read a fucking book, you can play a guitar, you can draw a picture. Like I had art going for me. So I was always able to entertain myself. Both my parents worked. My dad was a mechanic. My stepdad was a janitor. My mom was a secretary at a university. So I was home alone a lot after school, and I would just draw all day, and then I didn't get into music until much later. I got into music after like listening to music at 16 and then playing music like in my early 20s, pretty much. At like 20, I started playing music. I was kind of a late bloomer, but yeah, man, like right now I'm just working on a big animation that I'm learning. That's like, I'm on YouTube tutorials learning how to do that. And it's a very ambitious project. So we'll see if it looks like shit or not.
All right.
But there's plenty of music. You can always record music. I would say what's tougher to come by right now, rather than projects or time consuming things, is motivation to do it. Like I have friends who I can tell are like struggling with it's just depression, or fucking like, not necessarily like hopelessness, but at the same point, it's like hard to be like, okay, let's go get them on this Tuesday at fucking whatever time. Like it doesn't really matter right now.
Yeah.
I think we're at the light at the end of the tunnel, even though things seem very dismal right now. It's always darkest before the dawn. So right now we're now that Trump is fucking out, we're going to be, I know. Yeah, I feel like the whole world was like, whoo, on that one. Even New Zealand's like, thank fucking God. Nobody liked that. Half of our country liked them, unfortunately, but that's just how it is. But
that is how it is. Yes, it's weird.
Yeah, but you know what? I feel like at least we can get back on some familiar footing, even if it's still mildly evil, and not be outwardly disgusting like we have been for 4 years. It's been I'm ashamed of America for the past 4 years, like that we let this happen to ourselves.
Yeah.
Like,
I think some good has come out of especially the last year. The whole Black Lives Matter thing has become a thing that everybody's aware of now.
If anything, his being president has shed a light on all of our problems that everybody with any wherewithal knew that these problems were there. But now it's like a spotlight has been shown on it, and it's impossible to deny. If you deny it, then you're making up your life,
Yeah.
So things like, for instance, Black Lives Matter, just systemic racism in general, and fucking everything, man. I mean, this has been a year of huge change for the States, and hopefully some of it sticks.
Let's hope so. So musically, what do you got up next?
Well, for 3 years I've been working on a Damaged Bug record, and the reason I did the Michael Yonkers covers record was to distract myself from it, because I kind of hit a wall. But I have like 40 songs sort of started for it.
Right.
So if I can get 10 songs finished out of that, I'd like to work on that and get that out maybe next year. I have more improv stuff that I've been working on with people on and off. That to me has been such a godsend this year, improvisational music, because you could just bring together a group of good people to play together and then get in there. For me, it's like I love getting my hands dirty with a mess of a recording like that and like pulling it apart. It's really, and also it's not like Osees where we're working on songs forever. It's like really spur of the moment, and because of that, there's some excitement in it that is it's not available in other kinds of music. So I've done a lot of that work this year.
And when was the last time you were on stage in front of people?
Fuck. November last year, I think. I mean, we did these 2 streams this year, and there were technically some people at the one in Big Sur, like 6 people sitting on a
Right.
lawn really far away, but they were all people there helping us, you know, so it's not the same, obviously. But yeah, I think it was November last year, you know. I started talking to our French sound person, Sam, who comes with us to the States a lot too. And at first he seemed fine, but recently I can tell he's getting hungry again because he's being sentimental, which is very unlike him. Like for him to text me and be like, "I miss you," I'm like, "Are you okay, dude?" You know, like,
right, yeah.
yeah, I was like, "Everything all right over there?" He's like, "I'm just drunk and bored." I was like, "There you go," you know.
Join
so-
the party.
yeah, exactly. Get in line, pal.
Oh man. Well, thanks for taking time to talk to me. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, man. Hey,
You can come
let me
down
ask
here
you,
and play. You just have to be in isolation for 2 weeks.
yeah, I'm really looking forward to getting back down there. I miss Australia as well. You know, it's like always such a pleasure to come down there. I got to play at Camp Alohom a few years back, and that was.
Oh, yeah.
I don't like festivals very much, and I really don't like festivals where you have to camp necessarily.
Right.
And somehow that one transcended all that shit. And I was like, I remember against my typical vibe, I was like, this is fucking great. Like I had a really good time. And we had to leave because we had a flight at like 4 a.m. And I remember being disappointed. And I am rarely disappointed to leave a place. And I was like, there was like a hardcore band and then a live techno band and then a swing band. And
Yeah, that
somehow
sounds right.
all of it was great though, like, even the swing band. And I was like, I don't want to go. I want to drink and watch this fucking swing band. It was like a 12-piece swing band. I was like, this is awesome, you know, in the middle of the forest. So I look forward to coming back to New Zealand, you know?
Well, we're still doing it down here. So yeah, come on down whenever you
Yeah,
can.
right on, man. Well, good to meet you. You take care.
You too. Thank you very much. And have a good new year.
Yeah, you too, man. Good luck out there.
Thank you.